Hiya. Just trying to adjust the brightness in the room so I can speak to you properly. Okay, so got lots of things running around in my head. I didn't go to group today because I had some stuff still to get done for work. So I came to the shop instead, and Jane Day texted me, and then I texted her back, and she said about, because I was saying that whether I should do any videos about what I eat in a day, but I haven't been doing counting things. I've just been food optimizing, like in the new Target book where it says you can eventually I'll get to the stage where you can just kind of your habits will carry you through, and then you don't have to count things anymore because you just naturally like that. And I've been doing that for a little while. I weighed myself this morning on my own scale, which is 10 stone 9.2. So it's kind of working, but Jane said that is there a reason why I'm doing that, and the reason why I love Jane very much and enjoy watching her videos is because she questions things, and she is a type of person that doesn't just accept stuff, and I appreciate that tremendously in my life because I'm a similar person in the fact that I'm always quite suspicious of things, and I'm always asking a question about stuff, but sometimes you do things and you think, yeah, this plan, I mean, read the book and you just think, yeah, that's what people do, so I must be able to do it. And I think because what Jane Day said about, is that I could just tell in the way she was writing her text that she wasn't entirely convinced of my path choices. So it's made me think, which is always good. It's so useful just to have a think about what it is you're actually achieving and what you'd like to do next. So I've had a little write down of a few bits and pieces in terms of what do I feel about what's happening recently in my life. So one of the things that I wanted to be able to do was come to work on a Monday morning to get some jobs done because the shop's shut and I've got the place to myself and I can just focus on getting a few bits dealt with, and also have a bit of time to myself where I've got my own space, no kids, no partner, no customers, no nothing, and I've just got my own, and I don't have that anymore in my life, which is not a problem, but I think over time it gets on you a bit and you kind of want that space back, don't you? So that I sort of think, but I mentioned it to my partner and he said it made him feel awkward because then he felt like he should do some more work, whereas in reality this is not work to me. This is just living life. It's not none of the things I do is my job. It feels like work. It feels like an extraordinary opportunity. So but then I felt a bit guilty about not about coming to work, and I thought, well, that's stupid. So why do I feel guilty about coming to work? So I thought, okay, we've got to adjust my thought patterns there. So yeah, I've written a few bits down, and my main thing at the moment is freedom. What I'm thinking about, and it's freedom in terms of I think that's what I've been trying to achieve with this food optimizing thing, where I'm just eating naturally. So I've written, I have had a lack of time to myself, so I'm needing it. It's better to have time to myself in the shop because there's no food, and if I'm bored there's jobs to do. So how sometimes you have a bit of time to yourself and then you're like, but I'm getting a bit bored now, have a snack. There's no food here, there's just coffee, so I can have a cup of coffee. But if I have that time to myself at home, I just eat everything. So and also none of my stuff is there, and yes, we have a little kitchen upstairs, so I can do some washing up, but there's not quite so much of the same jobs, which is, put some washing in, tidy the surfaces, hoover the things. It's not that type of work here. There's more stuff like check the emails, get the paperwork done, do the invoices. So it's a change in circumstance. I can leave at 11:30 and go home for lunch. So I can just be here from 9. When I drop the kids off, I just come here, and it's only a couple of hours, and then I'll go home for some lunch. So that means, because I think also my partner was upset because he said that he wanted to have, he liked Mondays in the afternoons, obviously, because we'd have a bit of time together and see each other. I'm not very good at relationships very much, and because I don't find I need to have kind of, I'm not really somebody that wants people to spend time with me. You know, you get this thing where you're like, oh, I want to spend time with you, I want to have, you know, I'm really bad at that. I couldn't care less. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy spending time with people, but on the other hand, if they don't want to spend time with me, I'm not going to force them. So I feel like, you know, so that sort of weirded me out, just because I don't really understand. But he wants to spend some time with me, and that's very nice, it's very kind of him to do that. So I'm going to give the Monday afternoons, I'll go back like I would anyway when I go to group. And so then my problem is weigh-in, because weigh-in is on a Monday morning. And so I've had to think. I used to not like evening weigh-ins, but that's because I was scared of putting on weight. Whereas if I just take that out of the equation, then what's wrong with an evening weigh-in? So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have my Wednesday evenings back and go out to the group, because that'll also, I've ended up doing all of the story time and the bath time routines nowadays, because my partner's dyslexic. He does struggle reading stories, and it's fair enough, and it's not, he would rather not do it, and so I've ended up doing it, which, you know, it's very natural to make that transition. But on the other hand, I do get a bit like fed up of the evening routine. So that would, I mean, we'll still need to do that. Still need to bath them and story time, etc. But then I could come away at that point. So the group starts at 8 o'clock is the talk, basically. So if I've got their kids had their story by 7:30, that means I can then nip up on my bike to go to group. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't think I'm going to make the choice to not go to group anymore, because I think that's a sort of a slippery slope. Although I don't get a huge amount from group, it's not like the best thing in the world. And, you know, I think I still have to do it, because it keeps me invested, and in keeping me invested in Slimming World is a good positive move, because it allows me to think that there's no other option, and thinking there's no other option is a really good place to be, because you just do it, and it's very habitual. So I think that would be a good choice for me. What does that say? Oh yes, okay, so I shouldn't uninvest, so therefore I do need to still invest in Slimming World, but I do need time for myself, so I'm going to have to figure it out. I've done that. Also, I need to stop going to Lidl's. I'm not necessarily buying bad things, but it's just, I don't need to be going to any shops in the week, not really. I need to, just because it's time used up, I don't need that. I get my shopping on the what's it called, on the weekend. Saturday morning my shopping delivery arrives, and theoretically that'll carry me through the week. If I do need to pop and get some fruit, I can, but I need to, because I was doing group, and I would nip to Lidl's before group, and I just don't need to do it. And I think it gives me a bit more time, give me half an hour out of my give me half an hour back into my routine, because that's the thing, you see, now we're back at school. It's easier, well, should we say it's the same? So it's different. So there's no time left now. It's all eaten up. Everything's all eaten up. Everything's all back into its situation. There's not so much kind of easing yourself into it. Everything needs to be tightly scheduled. So having half an hour back from when I would nip to Lidl's is a useful time. Just to shop online for the week. I also need to find out, because the talk starts at 8 p.m. on the Wednesday, and I need to check to see if I can run late. So what I need to find out is, just in case life doesn't go to plan at home and it turns out that I can't leave till like 5 to 8 or something, I need to know that I can just arrive anyway. And even if I just catch the last bits of the talk or something, I kind of need to know that I can go, because sometimes things happen, don't they, and you get into a talk or something, and you need to hug your kid a bit more, and they're sad, and there's things that happen. So I kind of want to know that I can go anyway, even if I'm a few minutes late. So I need to just check to see if they can do that, because even if I miss weigh-in part, they might let me weigh after the group, or I'll, at least I've been to the talk. So I think that's important to do. So the other thing I need to do is I made myself an eating plan prior to the summer holidays, which meant that I could basically pretend that I wasn't counting anything. So I'd made myself a plan that would fit my week. That would mean that I knew exactly what sins I was having, exactly what healthy extras I was having, and everything like that. And it was all counted in my day, which meant that I would routinely eat these things, and I wouldn't then have to think about how much I was eating or how much the sins were or anything like that. So I think I've made a decision that the target book and the way it was speaking, in the fact that I could just live my life just food optimizing, it was good. It's a good concept, but I think it gives me too many options to create some bad habits. So we were talking about ages ago about the painting of the wall and the black marks, and you're painting over these black marks, and eventually they've gone. But the trouble is if you start, if say for example you're buying that paint from a different, because you have to keep painting over it anyway, you've got to keep painting over it because little marks will appear still, you still have to keep painting it. But say for example you went to a different shop and you got some paint that you thought, well, that's quite similar, it looks very similar, that will be fine. You start painting and it becomes a slightly different colour, and yes, it's probably going to be all right, but it's not exactly the colour that you wanted, and eventually you're going to have to repaint back over. So I just feel like that the target book, where it said about you can just kind of live your life food optimizing, it's a slightly different colour to the paint I was using already. It's very similar, but it's a slightly different colour paint. It's all I have to do is get that eating plan, because the problem was my phone broke over the holidays, and I'd written everything down completely like to the letter in terms of that, so I was living off that plan. But I do have a kind of an untinkered plan that I wrote already down on paper. So I do have that, which means that I can use it untinkered. It was like a little book. So I can just get that book and then re-enter it into my phone, and then just sort of work my way through tinkering it. So it was, I vaguely remember what it was. So it says, make myself an eating plan so that all food is allocated for and sin counted and hex counted, but I feel like I'm not counting because I've already counted it basically. And then it will feel like I'm just eating very naturally because I'm just eating the food. I'm very comfortable eating the same thing each week. Just, maybe later if my life gets less busy, I can live in a slightly different way. But right now it needs to be, this is Monday's food, this is Tuesday's food, this is Wednesday's food, so I can just eat the food. I enjoy all the food because I'm the person putting it in, so I make sure that I allocate for food that I'm really enjoying. So it's not a limiting thing. It's a good thing. You get seven days worth of 3 meals. You get a lot. What's that? Quick maths. 7 times 3 is 21 meals, so that's a lot of different meals you can have. Right, so it would be I say 3 meals, it's going to be more than that. So it's breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, first tea and second tea. So that's what I used to have. I'd have my breakfast, which was a bit of yogurt and fruit. Then I'd come to work and I'd have a snack, and my snack would be a bit of fruit and a high-five bar. Then I would have some lunch, and my lunch would, according to whatever it was at the time, so lasagna or the chili or curry or pasta, I think the other one. And then I have another snack. So after I've finished my lunch and I go and get the kids, I have another snack. And the snack I've decided needs to be, I've been having breadsticks. They've been ever so good. Been a small packet of breadsticks with 4 sins, and they're great because they feel like crisps, but they don't respond to me like crisps. I don't want to eat another packet, and I think they're fantastic. So it would be a packet of breadsticks and a piece of fruit, and then it would be there would then be About the raisins as well, I've been quite enjoying having some salt, like a packet of raisins, and they're 2 sins, I think 2.5 sins, so that's a really good choice. And through this process, I know that my snack after my lunch when I pick the kids up is most of my sins, well, should we say most of the sins? It's a kind of a good chunk of my sins, and then often I would use the other sins in the lunch for like olives and sometimes half a sin for sausages and such. Then it would be, then when I get back from, so I try and keep out as long as possible with the kids, so I don't go straight away home, because when I get home I want to eat. So we're either, if it's a nice day, we go and play on the field, and if it's a bit rainy, then we go to the library. And as long as we're home by 5 o'clock, and then we start, and I just immediately when I get back I start cooking, because I do find as well, if we come back earlier, say for example we come back at 3:30, I sort of think, well, I'll sit down for a bit. And when I sit down for a bit, I just cannot bring the enthusiasm to get back up again and get moving again. So that's why I find it's easier just to get back at 5 and then do all the cooking. So for that, I'll have my first tea, which is I make the kids their spaghetti and their sauce, you know, the sauce you make yourself sort of thing, and that's Slimming World friendly. So I just need to make sure that I also make myself a batch of that at the same time, or noodles and stir fry. So it's extremely simple, but I must make sure I eat something at that point, because I'm going to then do the nighttime routine. So I need to make sure that I'm not snacking bolster eating through that patch. Also need to make sure I make myself some coffee before I go and do the story time. And then once that's over, when we've done the story time, everyone's in bed and everyone's had their hugs, then I would then have a second tea. So it would be a small first tea and a small second tea. So neither one of those are very big meals. The lunchtime one is a big meal, and the first tea before the bedtime and the second tea after bedtime, they're both kind of moderate portions, because obviously I can't fit loads in at that point, but I am peckish after the kids have gone to bed, so it's important that I sit down and have another little meal. And then also need to make sure I'm having plenty of coffee, and I'm also going to bring chewing gum back in my process. That was really helpful, because it's very helpful in that patch when I get back from school. If I've already made sure I've got some chewing gum in my mouth when we walk in the door, then I'm far less likely to bolster eat, because I've got chewing gum in my mouth. I make sure I make myself some coffee straight away, and then I make the kids tea, and then I eat. So just because it's only that little patch that I really struggle with, because it's very easy to shove sandwiches in at that point, isn't it? So I'll get myself back on my chewing gum, and I think that would be helpful. Right, I've done that bit there. You've already done a plan. It is just not a tinkered with plan. Use that plan so you don't need to start from scratch, as I've done that. Right, okay, so the last thing I'm aware of is, in the same way in which the kids on a Sunday had enough time to eventually get stuck into something, the same will happen with you. So that was, so Sundays we don't watch telly on a Sunday. They can still play games on their phone or anything like that, but we just don't watch telly, and that's to help them have a minute just to engage with something. I very nostalgically, I remember playing with my brother, and we used to make board games, and we used to love doing that. And I kind of want the same for my kids. I want that bit where you just kind of get invested in something, and you don't get a chance with that at school, because you can't follow your own, you've got to do kind of what, it's very quick, and the curriculum's very quick. But I like the idea of them having a moment just to go, yeah, let's do this. And it takes them a little while to kind of access something, but then eventually they did. They decided they were going to make a aeroplane, what's it called, just like an aeroplane, an airline, that's it. They were going to make an airline, so they did some posters for some airlines, and I got them some paper plates so they could make steering wheels, and they got invested in that. And then they made a little aeroplane shape out in the garden, and got the chairs out and put some teddies in, and they were really getting into it. And that's that bit where they kind of wanted to play, and they didn't want to stop playing. And I think you can't just force yourself to do that. You've got to give yourself time for that to achieve. So in the same way, for me, I've just got to give myself the time to allow the comprehension and the inspiration to come through. So I've got to give myself a bit of time to allow my thought processes to kick into gear, and just sort of to be able to have the chance to reflect. Susan was saying about how you have the 3 R's, and if I can remember correctly, is it to recharge, reflect, and something else beginning with R. But basically the idea was that you'd take some time out, you have a little think about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then you move on, and you find your different path. There's always another way, there's always another choice, and there's always a way in which you can kind of just manipulate your path so that you're a bit more even in your direction. Okay, so I just thought I would share with you where I am right now, and my next plan. I feel a bit better because I thought that the plan was a good plan to have the target people where you kind of food optimize and let it carry you through, but I think I just need a better foundation. So I'm doing fine in terms of, I know I haven't put on 5 stones, so I'm okay, because I know I'm still in my target bracket, but I'm very, very grateful for Jane just to say, are you sure? Are you sure that's what you want to do? And I'm extremely grateful to you, Jane. Thanks so much for that. And I will stop this, and I will say goodbye, and I will upload, and lots of love to everyone, and I will see you soon. Bye.